my apologies for taking that long of a hiatus. It has been quite a while when I got wrapped up in a lot of academic, situations, and also, with sickness. Definitely was trying a lot harder to cover all the playoff action. But, I got the time now, right before the conference finals get here. So I want to give shout outs to all those teams. The Timberwolves, the Celtics, the Pacers, and the Mavericks. I'll go in reverse and kind of run through every series. Where do I even start with the Mavericks and Thunder? What I will say is promising for the Thunder is that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he came to play. There was no doubt in my mind that he had a pretty solid series, despite him not having the playoff experience. And even in Game 6, yes, it was crushing for them to lose to P.J. Washington Jr. free throws. But he would not let them die. Despite Lu Dort's horrible shooting, despite Josh Giddey, he was doing fine off the bench, but there's clearly a reason why he wasn't starting anymore, to the point where, Dagnall had to pull him to the side in Game 5 and say, hey, you're not starting this one. You're going to try to get some more productive minutes out of other players in there. And they started utilizing Case and Wallace more. Isaiah Joe was alright, but, just needed a little more from players. But, overall, the Mavericks, they're a fairly young team themselves, but their core, for the most part, Kyrie, Luka, Doncic, of course, have a lot of playoff experience. So that carried over and certainly helped them get this one. But it is going to be something to watch. Derrick Jones Jr. had himself a hell of a series. Got to give credit to that man. And also, Daniel Gafford, Dereck Lively II, and P.J. Washington Jr. Especially the very last name out of those three. For them to barely have any playoff experience at all. Washington Jr. was literally stuck with the Hornets at the trade deadline. And Daniel Gafford had been in fucking hell with the damn Wizards. There's just no shot that they expected themselves to be in this position, all those months back. But they rose to the occasion, all three of them, and certainly held their own to provide that solid defense and absolutely kill the Thunder in the paint this entire series. They just crashed the offensive boards completely. Dereck Lively II, rookie-on-rookie crime in Game 6, dominated that man, Chet Holmgren, on the boards. And, it led to some easy, just post scores for those guys. P.J. Washington Jr. also from the corner was lethal, to the point where I'm just getting confused every time they leave that man wide open from the corner. I'm like, he's torched you all series. Are you not going to deploy somebody to watch him from that area? And even then, sometimes the defenders just completely slept and gave him all the space to work with. It made no sense to me, but the Mavericks advance. Pacers also. They've got to be the most disrespected team. Obviously, small market Indiana, all that, but they are seriously disrespected. Yes, it can be argued that for them to even be in the conference finals right now in itself is a little lucky, given that, obviously Giannis was hurt for the Bucks, and that series could have been different. Julius Randle, Mitchell Robinson were out for the Knicks. Bojan Bogdanovic, a litany of injuries. Josh Hart got hurt. OG Anunoby obviously wasn't there. And, for that, I mean, even then, the Knicks still gave the Pacers hell early on. I mean, DiVincenzo, for the most part of this series, was torching them. When Brunson was able to get going, he did fine. But, that adjustment by Carlisle to put Nesmith on him definitely changed things for the better for the Pacers. I mean, originally I thought he was struggling against him, but no, he made life difficult for him out there. Like, some of the worst shooting performances from your superstar player at this particular point in the playoffs, and it helped the Pacers, get ahead, and I mean, just run away with some of these games. But not Game 3. Andrew Nembhard, I will say it here, was an absolute godsend for the Pacers in this series. As ballsy as it is to take a 31-foot step-back jumper to win a crucial Game 3 at home, if he doesn't hit that shot, the Pacers probably don't fare as well. I mean, to be down 3-0, no one comes back from that. And Nembhard allowed them to have at least a chance. And then that carried over into Game 4, of course. Pacers run away with that one. The Knicks claw and fight back in Game 5, just run away with that one. Pacers respond in Game 6. And honestly, outside of the very first game, you saw great things from Pascal Siakam, and especially Tyrese Haliburton, not having any playoff experience at all, having that dud in Game 1, and then coming out and just showing that he can be a very great player when he taps into that more aggressive mindset. Like I've said before, like I've written about, that's always been my gripe with him. He's definitely a great facilitator, definitely looking to see his teammates, ball out. And granted, in their wins, they certainly did. But you needed to see him take that leap as a scorer in this moment. He is their star player, their franchise player. And obviously Pascal Siakam's paired right next to him. Him being the champion, I mean, he's got a little bit to prove, but he's won something. Tyrese Haliburton has not really accomplished anything from an awards or, championship appearances standpoint. So you're out there, nobody expects you to be in this position in the first place against the Knicks. You got to rise to the occasion, and he did that for sure. In this Game 7, boy, 6 players scoring 15 or more points, an NBA playoff record, 67.1% from the field as a team. Dude, you have any team doing that, it's an easy win all the time. And they were able to win by 21, score 130 points in Game 7 to close it out and get to the conference finals. Now they face a tough match. Don't get me wrong. I mean, tonight we're gonna see a lot. I mean, the Celtics, in their case, moving on into the Cavs series, they were without Porzingis, but in this conference finals matchup, they get him back in either Game 1 or Game 2. Regardless, though, this game will show a lot. I mean, the series in the regular season was a bit back and forth on both sides. But at their healthiest, if we can see both teams, perform well, it's going to be strength versus strength. Obviously, the Pacers have, I can't say enough about their offense. But the Celtics can match with that, or they can beat you with their defense. We'll see how it goes. And, I mean, of course, they got past the Cavs easily. I mean, Donovan Mitchell did all right when he played. And, you know, he was taking inefficient shots, but at that point, it was like, who else could he trust? Nobody else was really performing that well when he was in the lineup for some reason. But all of a sudden, you have Evan Mobley and Darius Garland deciding to step up when the man's hurt. It was a little too late. I mean, even then in the closeout game, Darius Garland was inefficient as hell, while he had Marcus Morris Sr., washed up Marcus Morris Sr., carry him, and the team for that matter. You know? Evan Mobley also coming out with 33. Where are you? They paid you this rookie max extension worth nearly $200 million. And what have you really done since then, Darius Garland? Like, and it's not even like he has to be this pure point guard. He's got such a higher level of just movement on the ball and off the ball, you know, over a lot of players in the league. And instead of utilizing that to the best of his ability, you're just settling for, you know, low scoring, barely taking any shots, and then not even really hitting them at an efficient clip, and also being turnover prone. So the role you're settling for, you're not even always right on the money with performing in that role. You don't do your job correctly, and then you decide to become a scoring threat when your counterpart isn't there. And granted, that's typical of, you know, the pairing of guards who are ball dominant. I mean, shit, you saw it with De'Aaron Fox and Tyrese Haliburton in Sacramento. It's a tried and true story. I do understand it a little bit, but it's not even that, and it's not even coaching from the perspective of JB Bickerstaff. Like, he's not telling Darius Garland, hey, you have to subscribe to becoming this pure passing point guard. You know, a lot of these plays in, you know, these games are honestly being called for Garland to get going. And it's just not happening. And they get down by huge margins like they did in this very series. And it cost them tremendously. Darius Garland has some soul searching to do this summer because, I mean, goodness gracious, man. It's bad. It's real bad. You know, made life easier for the Celtics outside of the one game that they always decide to drop in any given series. You know, since they've been in the playoffs. I don't know why they do it. You'd figure that, honestly, their path is fairly easy because the East is weaker. So they should be trying to, you know, just get through every series in, you know, just typical sweep. Because they can do that. But you're just going to give the other team a game, give them a chance, some hope at potentially knocking you off. I don't think that's always going to work out for them. And I don't think that they can afford to do that against the Pacers in this series. But, you know, that remains to be seen. And as for the damn Timberwolves, I mean, oof. The Timberwolves, they shocked me. They shocked me. That's really all I can say. You have to give credit to Anthony Edwards mostly. I mean, if they didn't win some of those early games, they obviously wouldn't have been in position to have gotten to a Game 7. But, you know, in those crucial games before that ill-fated game, if he doesn't step up for you, oh, you stand no chance. Because it seemed like everyone else up to that point was just tagging along. I mean, you got contributions on the defensive end from everybody early on in games 1 and 2, outside of Gobert. And then from 3, 4, 5 on, Jokic is just killing Gobert in the paint, demoralizing the team as a whole. Karl-Anthony Towns just out of it by the end of that game. So Karl-Anthony Towns is now given a chance by, Micah Nori, because Chris Finch is there, but obviously he can't move around because he's still fucking paralyzed from what Devin Booker did to him. You have that adjustment to have him guard Jokic in the paint, and he honestly did a better job than I expected. It rattled Jokic, but he still got his. And that was the whole plan in, the last couple of games. Jokic and Murray can get theirs. We know they can, as a duo. But where was everyone else? The Nuggets' death compared to the Timberwolves, they were just overmatched completely on that end. Like, their bench unit did almost nothing. I mean, Braun gave you some solid minutes, but nothing really registered from anybody on that unit. The loss of all those guys from the championship team last year was pretty huge. And you could tell, because at the trade deadline, they were actually trying to bring Bruce Brown back in after letting him go. So you can tell that they were missing him. For whatever reason, they were missing Jeff Green, but, he was solid for what that team needed him to do. The role that they needed him to play. And they were missing that. Like, they tried to make up for it with guys like Peyton Watson, but even he wasn't really that available this series. So, it's like, what are you to do if you're the Nuggets? There's not much you can do about it. You want those players to step up, and they just didn't. I mean, Aaron Gordon, he did fine up until Game 7. Having him bring the ball up the court and taking the pressure off of Jamal Murray, from, all the way back, 94 feet away from the basket, was crucial for them to win 3 straight games and rip that streak off. But they adjusted to it pretty well. Part of that is the leadership and, just that team. They lost a little bit of confidence, but, the way that Anthony Edwards exudes his personality, it really does rub off on the rest of that team. And you can tell. That's very evident to me. They believe in Anthony Edwards. And in this Game 7, that showed completely. I mean, 6 of 24 shooting from the guy in Minnesota. A game like that would typically be the end of it and the end of the season for a team as a whole. But instead, you got Karl-Anthony Towns having a huge game. Rudy Gobert did very well, honestly, by his standards from the offensive standpoint, and hitting a damn jump shot on Nikola Jokic. It like, oh man, I really couldn't believe it. I still can't believe it all these days later. But was a thing. You had to see it to believe it. You'll probably hear about it down the line, honestly. And, Jaden McDaniels was having a horrible series. Trying to be that 3-point shooting threat for the team to, help Mike Conley in that aspect. He had a great last couple of games to close out. And Michael Conley Jr., of course. I mean, all of us remember that Jazz Nugget series in the bubble and how that ended. Like, it's just crazy. It's come full circle for him. And you really have to respect what Michael Conley Jr. was able to do as well. Like, yes, Anthony Edwards has, the leadership factor, but you can't get to that point without looking at Michael Conley Jr. first. He is the ultimate team player, and that's why the Minnesota Timberwolves brought him in and replaced him. Replaced D'Angelo Russell with him, rather. That's exactly why. Absolute team player, locker room guy, looking to see his teammates eat before he does. But it's not like he can't go out and get you some buckets too. And he absolutely did. You could tell, man, like, from thinking about almost 4 years back to this very point in the playoffs, where low scoring game against the Nuggets, game on the line, takes a 3-pointer, misses it. Donovan Mitchell on the floor crying in agony as his team goes out. And the Jazz were the top team in the Western Conference at that point. To have a loss like that and then be on the fringe of doing the same thing in a later round with another team who just so happened to be one of the better teams in their own conference, couldn't go out like that again. And he played spirited basketball for the last couple to avoid that situation. Now, it's going to be interesting. I mean, damn, you can't make up the script for the Timberwolves. I mean, they closed that game out on Sunday, a day in which 20 years back, they were able to win a different Game 7 and advance to their first conference finals. A day of which, 48 years ago, their best all-time franchise player in Kevin Garnett was born. You can't make those things up. You really can't. They've never been in this position before. It's interesting all the time to see that kind of stuff play out. Now there's truly parity in the league, because, this is going to be now 6 straight seasons without a repeat champion. Very interesting. And like I was saying about the death piece, like, every single team remaining in these playoffs has a tremendous bench unit. So that is going to be the X factor for pretty much everyone. How does their bench rise to the occasion when the starters aren't necessarily doing their best? And you've seen all of their bench units go crazy in their respective series. Now it's going to be, how do they match and stack up against each other as a whole? Predictions. We'll see Celtics and Mavericks finals. That's who I'll go with. I can't be, necessarily surprised if people go a different route with that. But that'll do it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.